Law enforcement zoned in on Scott immediately.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Do you really think the cops don't have a suspect in the Summer Wells case? Well, what does intertextuality tell us? What do we learn from the Scott Peterson case that can let us know what to expect from this case? In the Scott Peterson case, when Lacey had been missing for a week, the cops were also quoted in the media saying, Modesto police say they have no suspects. They have scoured parks and abandoned buildings, questioned everyone, asked residents to search rural areas where Lacey Peterson may have walked before disappearing. Detectives said Scott Peterson gave investigators a receipt Monday from the Berkeley Marina where he said he went fishing. When asked during Monday's news conference if that eliminates him as a suspect, Ridenour said, quote, "At this point we are not ruling him or anybody out," end quote. Sound familiar? Before we get to today's episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment. Obviously, if comments are disabled, head on to Twitter using the hashtag SummerWells. And let's get started. So incidentally, the day the cops were quoted in the media, that's the Modesto Bee, saying they had no suspect in mind, that was the same day of the vigil. And guess what was fielded in court multiple months later? A voice recording from December 31st of Scott talking to his mistress, Amber Frey, at the vigil. Amber didn't record the call on her own initiative. The cops asked her to do that after she told them the previous day, that's December the 30th, that Scott and her were having an affair. So if we go back to the Modesto Bee, this is an article from January 24th, 2003, and I'll put the links to the articles in the description so you can verify this yourself. There's a quote from this article dated January 24th, 2003, dealing with the events 3 weeks earlier. Quote, Amber Frey contacted the Modesto Police Department on Monday, December 30th, 2002. She met with detectives and gave information about a relationship with Scott Peterson that was verified by a variety of means. Amber Frey has been cooperative in the investigation and is not a suspect in Lacey Peterson's disappearance. Yes, Amber was cooperative, very cooperative, and also absolutely instrumental in the eventual conviction of Scott Peterson. On the 15-year anniversary of the Scott Peterson case, the cops eventually came clean about how they really felt about suspects, and this was done in an interview with ABC News. And this is a quote from that interview. Detective John Bueller was on the case from day one. According to Bueller, the first person you focus on in a homicide investigation is the person closest to the victim and the last person to see the victim. And of course, boom, boom, we got both of those with Scott, said Bueller. In court, prosecutors showed the jury parts of a videotaped interrogation to highlight Peterson's demeanor. What concerns me the most is doing anything I can to further the progress, Scott Peterson said. New Year's Eve marked 5 days after Lacey disappeared, with search efforts underway. Police heard Scott lying to an unidentified woman on a secretly recorded phone call. Peterson, a fertilizer salesman, has told her he was traveling overseas on business. I'm near the Eiffel Tower and the New Year celebration is unreal. The crowd is huge, he said on the call. And I'm going to play you an extract from that recording.
Yeah, it is. I can hear you. Very good.
It's pretty awesome. Fireworks there at the Eiffel Tower. The people all playing American rock songs.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty funny.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you guys decided to go out.
Investigators recorded more than a dozen telephone conversations between Peterson and his mistress, 30-year-old Amber Frey, a massage therapist and single mother, and that comes from ABC 7 News. Now, in the Summer Wells case, if it appears the cops have nothing, no suspect, no leads, no idea what happened, well, that's an illusion. It's the same strategy used successfully, in my opinion, in the Barry Morphew case, as well as in the Laurie Vallow case. Even in the Chris Watts case, which was concluded at a blistering pace, Watts was lured into selling the farm by law enforcement and federal agents pretending to be less suspicious of him than they really were. And it worked like a charm, didn't it? I do get a sense in this case that the people at the center of it are running out of time. You are going to get credit if you come forward, if you volunteer to come forward, saying, there was an accident. If you don't do that and you're caught out, then there's not going to be leniency. And there will be additional charges like obstruction of justice and that sort of thing. All right, I'm not going to take it further than that. As I said, I will put the links to the Scott Peterson trial narrative that I've highlighted in this episode in the description. You can clearly see that in real time they were saying there were no suspects, but subsequently they actually suspected Scott Peterson all along, and they were just trying to gather evidence against him. So I'm not going to take it further than that. I am going to continue my statement analysis on the Sermon on the Mount, and I agree with the expert on the interview room that this is an invaluable tool if you know how to use it. So I'm going to be continuing with that analysis, and then perhaps at some point get on to Don's telephone conversation. I'm not sure if there's really much I can or should add to the really good analysis that Steve has done. When Steve Johnson was asked by Chris last night what he thought happened, he first reiterated that based on Don's own words, he was letting Don's own words guide him. He then answered that his opinion was that there was an accident involving Summer, and he thought it was Candace's fault, and Don had to clean it up. And this is something commented by someone called Maureen. Thanks a lot for this. She said, I think that it is the crux of it. And even if Grandma and Macbeth were involved, it was ultimately Candace's fault in Don's eyes, certainly according to Steve Johnson. And then because there are so many other criminal activities surrounding this case and the people involved, covering up the accident became a selfish priority in order to avoid exposure and prosecution on other crimes. And so according to Maureen, she says, that's what I think law enforcement is working on, tying it all up. But you can also imagine if you've gone to church and spoken in front of the congregation and attended these prayer vigils, is it going to be easy to sort of throw in the towel, having come so far along that road? What do you guys think? Do you think it's almost over? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.